Elijah and Amy married young, tying the knot just after graduating college at the age of 22. Their love story had already been written in quiet, everyday moments. They had been living together for a while, so making it official was merely a formality. There was no grand wedding, no lavish celebration, just the signing of papers and a quiet acknowledgement of their bond. Their parents, however, were deeply disappointed, yearning for the tradition and spectacle that never came. Life settled into routine quickly. Elijah found steady work in a factory related to his field, while Amy initially attempted to work in hers, but struggled to find fulfillment. Eventually, she landed a well-paying job as a salesperson at a cosmetics store, a position she didn't love but tolerated. What truly ignited her soul, however, was the theater. For the past 2 years, she had dedicated her evenings to a small local troupe, treating it less as a job and more as a passion. She spoke endlessly about the magic of the stage, the way performances came alive under the glow of the lights. At first, Elijah struggled to understand. He couldn't quite grasp the appeal of such a demanding hobby, one that pulled her away so often, leaving him to eat dinner alone. But when he saw the way her face lit up after performances, the way she arrived home, arms full of flowers and eyes brimming with excitement, he resigned himself to supporting her dreams. She, in turn, was grateful for his effort, even if he didn't share her enthusiasm. Everything changed when a new actor joined the troupe. His name was Nick, a man roughly Amy's age, charismatic and quick-witted. They clicked instantly, sharing inside jokes and effortless conversations. Their colleagues teased them about their undeniable chemistry, warning that such close friendships had a tendency to slip into something more. But Amy and Nick brushed off the comments, insisting there was nothing to worry about, until one fateful night. It was a cast party, the kind where the drinks flowed freely and inhibitions blurred. One moment of recklessness, one mistake in the haze of alcohol, and they found themselves tangled in the dressing room, crossing a line that should have remained intact. When Amy woke the next morning, the weight of her actions crashed down upon her. Guilt clung to her like a second skin. She spent the following days drowning in shame, agonizing over whether to confess to Elijah. But in the end, she convinced herself there was no point in hurting him over a mistake that would never happen again. She had been drunk, careless. She would bury it and move forward. But moving forward became impossible when she returned to the theater. Facing Nick again sent her into a spiral of anxiety. She wanted to call in sick, to delay the inevitable confrontation, but her role was too crucial to abandon. So she went, forcing herself to act as if nothing had happened. That illusion shattered when Nick found her alone in the dressing room. She barely had time to gather her thoughts before he stepped inside, fully costumed, his expression unreadable. Hurriedly, she blurted out an apology, insisting she had been too intoxicated to think clearly, that their night together had been a terrible mistake. She wanted to forget it, to preserve their friendship. Nick's face darkened. That wasn't what he had wanted to hear. He had imagined something different, that their night had been the beginning, not the end. He reached for her, but she pulled away, her heart pounding. "Oh, so that's how it is," he murmured, his voice laced with bitterness. Amy swallowed hard. "Nick, I'm married. I love Elijah." He cut her off with a smirk that made her stomach churn. "In that case," he said smoothly, "I guess you wouldn't want him to find out how talented you are with your mouth." Her blood ran cold. She stared at him in shock, horror twisting inside her chest. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Nick stepped closer, his grin turning predatory. "Don't play dumb, Amy. I want you." That night, Amy's performance was a disaster. The director scolded her, but the criticism barely registered. Her mind was elsewhere, drowning in terror. She fled back to the dressing room, where the nightmare continued. Nick became relentless. Whenever he pleased, he would corner her, demanding she repay him for his silence. She tried to resist, but fear paralyzed her. The threat of Elijah discovering the truth loomed over her like a guillotine. And so, against everything she believed, she gave in. Each time left her feeling more hollow, more disgusted with herself. The sweet, funny man she had once considered a friend had revealed himself to be something monstrous. Meanwhile, Elijah sensed something was wrong. Amy had changed. She was distant, withdrawn, flinching away from his touch with weak excuses. Headaches, exhaustion, vague murmurs of stress. He felt her slipping through his fingers. The fear that had haunted him since childhood crept back in. His own mother had cheated on his father, then abandoned them both, leaving his dad a broken shell of a man. Elijah had sworn he would never experience that same fate, but now doubts clawed at him. Still, confronting Amy outright terrified him. What if she confirmed his worst fears? So he waited, hoping against hope that he was imagining things. Then fate intervened. Amy was preparing for the biggest night of her theater career, her first leading role. She was nervous, jittery, convinced she would fail. Elijah reassured her, then lied. He told her he wouldn't be able to attend, claiming work obligations. In truth, he planned to surprise her. He arrived at the theater just before the performance, a bouquet of flowers in hand. Backstage, familiar faces greeted him warmly, making it easy to slip past and find Amy's dressing room. Without knocking, he opened the door, and instantly regretted it. There she was, on her knees. Elijah's world shattered in an instant. Shocked, he slammed the door shut. His mind reeled, grasping for some explanation. Any explanation, but deep down he already knew the truth. After a few seconds of stunned silence, he forced himself to open the door again. Inside, Amy had scrambled to cover herself, pressing her stage dress to her chest, while the other man hastily straightened his costume. Elijah looked between them, his expression unreadable, then dropped the bouquet onto the floor. Without a word, he turned and walked away. He drove aimlessly through the rain, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands. Everything he had dreamed of, building a life with Amy, growing old together, having children, had gone up in flames. He considered calling his father, asking him how he had survived such betrayal, but decided against it. The man was old. There was no point in reopening old wounds. Elijah faced the agony alone. Later that night, Amy stumbled home, drunk and disheveled, clutching a half-empty bottle of liquor. She collapsed at his feet, sobbing, begging for a chance to explain. Through broken, slurred words, she confessed everything. The one-time mistake, the months of blackmail, the misery that had consumed her. Elijah listened in silence. He pitied her, as one human might pity another, but as a husband, forgiveness was impossible. The betrayal had severed something that could never be repaired. They parted ways. The apartment was hers, so he packed his things and left. Mutual friends kept him updated on her life. She quit the theater, found another job, and lived alone. She struggled to form meaningful relationships, haunted by the choices she had made. A year and a half later, she fell for a new man, hoping for something real. But he left her, choosing another woman, one carrying his child. Even after Elijah was gone, karma never let Amy forget.